Hi friends, this is Maggie. Uh, Today I will be working on the homemade stamps. On my live video, I mentioned if you guys wanted me to go ahead and create a video, and I did see a couple of yes there. So I'm going to go ahead and work on that. You're going to need a marker, Sharpie, and also this tool that is used for crafting, just because it has that ball point where it's going to help you indent this phone paper. It must have a name. I just can't. I don't know what it is. So you guys can let me know. But you can find this at dollar store. You want to get the one that has the adhesive in the back, so it makes it easier to create the layers on it. And you'll see me doing that on this video. I'm cutting a square. I don't want it to have a big stamp because I want to be able to fit it in my box. So I'm just cutting the square. Now I did see a stencil. Was it? No, it was not a stencil. It was a stamp, and it was a homemade stamp, and it was with it looked like little squares that look like windows, and that's what I'm doing here. Because I did like the stamps, especially when you're working with mixed media, to be able to have like little squares like this. And that's what I'm doing here. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. That's the whole idea of making the homemade um, stamps, is because it just doesn't have to be perfect. Now with that little tool, I'm indenting, is using it as a pen and going over the lines. You want to start going slow, not as deep, not as hard, pressing too hard, because it kind of rips a little bit. So you have to start like building it. So do the line soft, and the next time around you come and you do it harder and harder until you create that deep dent into that paper, foam paper. And now to build the layers, you see, you peel the back, lay it down. That's going to be my second layer for this stamp. And I'm going to do this 3 times because I want this to have 4 layers. And the reason why I do 4 layers is because it's nice and steady. And it's not something that's going to fold. It's pretty steady. So you'll see me, once I complete cutting them all out, that I try to fold it and it's nice and thick. And that's what you want, because you don't need to set this on a stamp or a block or anything like that. The foam itself, if you layered it a few times, it's going to become pretty hard. I think that's it. I've got my 4 layers there. Then I work on this flower. I drew the flower there, kind of did the same thing. And um, I also used the tool, went by through the lines and indented the line to be able to have that flower imprinted on that foam paper. And now I'm creating layers on that. And I skipped that part because, I didn't want this video to be very long, but I wanted you to see all the stamps that I ended up you know, completing. Here I only had 3 layers, so I needed another one, and I don't have any more of the yellow, so it doesn't matter. It's basically, this is just to make sure that it is pretty steady and thick. There's one, my little windows and the flower. Now I'm gonna get my gesso. I'm gonna use the white gesso, but you can use acrylic paints. Normally you will use acrylic paints, but white gesso works as well. Now I noticed that every time I am using the brush and the gesso or the acrylic paint on the stamp, if you layer it thick, when you press it down, if you have a lot of paint, it mushes around, which I like that too. But if you don't want it to be mushy, that has a lot of paint smear in the side, look, I love this. I love that. You can just go light with it. Now I'm doing the whole thing because you can do the squares itself, which is what I did. I only color the squares. Now I'm doing the whole thing. So you get 2 different effects from this. There you go. I love that. So I know I'm going to be using this stamp a lot for my mixed media to work on the background. I'm just cleaning up the gesso or the paint. You just don't want it to sit there because you don't want the little indentations that you did on that foam to go away because the paint is building there. So just make sure that after you use your stamp, just clean it. Now I'm going to do the flower, and you can just color the flower and you get the single flower, um, which is nice. I like that. Or you can do the entire block and then you get the whole thing. And you get the whole thing there. Now I'm using that background. That paper is actually vellum and is brown, and I'm using just the white acrylic or the white gesso so that you guys can see the print. But you can use any color. So now I'm going to go ahead and build another flower, but this time I'm going to cut around the flower and and use it as a stamp that only has the flower, you see. I created this second flower here, um, and then decided not to complete it just because I do have the other flowers that I created before, and I just didn't like this one too much. I mean, you can, look at a draw a flower and just kind of draw it there, a simple flower or more complex, depending how comfortable you are. Now I'm using that tool again to go over the lines, going soft first and then pressing down little by little until it becomes real deep indent, so that when I use the stamp, you can see the lines on the flower. And for this one, I am going to cut around the flower. I'm not going to let it sit straight on the block, on the square. That's what I do. I'll go and try to do this here. I'm trying to do a perfect cut because I really want a good shape on this flower. So this kind of basically will be a regular stamp because you have the design and then you're cutting around it. So when you stamp, you get the image of the flower only. Then I put it, in order to do that, I actually, to create this, the flower itself, I usually use two layers, the original one and then another one, because I don't want it to be too flat. And eventually, when you keep using it and you're pressing down, most likely it's going to flatten up a little bit. So I purposely do two layers on it. And what I did, I just used the back of just so that I don't have to, of the other flower. And then I do a print here so you guys can see it. And it's just a single flower. And you don't just go over the flower only, and you don't have to have the whole thing. And I liked it. That one came out pretty nice too. So I'm going to let the music play, so you guys can see how I go over my other stamps. I print them out all in this page so you guys can see it. And hopefully, if you have any questions, just let me know. But it's that simple to do.